Welcome back to the Limitless Podcast. So happy that you are here today. I'm continuing on our journey of conscious marriage and what that looks like. So, hopefully, you had an opportunity to listen to the last podcast on conscious marriage. If you haven't, go back and take a listen. I'm really laying the groundwork for what we're going to talk about today. So, we're talking about conscious marriage and how to really live from a conscious perspective. And that is something that as I did my own healing journey, not just in my marriage actually was the last relationship that I took a look at. I'd healed a lot of other things before that. But what I recognize is living a more conscious life is has helped me take more responsibility and ownership for my stories, the view from which I see the world, which has absolutely changed as I have dissolved those old stories, healed those old wounds within me. And there still is some stuff that comes up, obviously. This is a growth of a lifetime. But I so desire to teach so many women and men how to live from a more conscious perspective. And so we're talking about conscious marriage, and it has changed everything in our marriage. My husband operates from a place of being aware. That's all what consciousness is, being aware of the triggers and how he is triggered. He becomes aware of his stories as well. And it has just made our marriage so much more intimate. We are operating from completely different places. I feel more whole. He feels more whole. And that's such a beautiful place to be. I see him from an unconditional love without expectations, which I shared on the last podcast. So today we're going to dive in. We're going to go a step beyond just a conscious marriage. I'm going to talk to you about justified anger. And this is really something that is near and dear to my heart because I held on to that for so long. And from the last week's podcast, I shared with you, stories about where did my husband go? Where's the man that I married? And a lot of that justified anger built up in me from he wasn't the way he was when I married him. That softness of him, the intentionality of us spending time together, all of those things seem to have dissipated throughout the years. And so that became justified anger. Justified anger turns into blame. It turns into massive frustration, anger, and then bitterness. And bitterness is just a very lonely, lonely place to be. And maybe you feel that in your marriage right now. Maybe you're feeling lonely. I get that. I've absolutely experienced that, to be quite honest, for more years than I'd like to admit. And it was because I was not conscious. We were really in an unconscious marriage. We just believed that marriage was supposed to, you communicate better, you go to counseling. We just believed that those were the ways that you have a great marriage. And it just didn't work for us. It just didn't. And it's just such a beautiful place to be. So we're going to talk about justified anger. And I hear this a lot. And, I don't know if you have girlfriends that you talk to about your marriage struggles because you just need that listening ear. I am very careful to do that nowadays, to be really honest. And the reason why I'm super careful not to do that nowadays is because every time I talk about anything in my marriage, it really just re-energizes that emotion, and it really makes it much worse for me. That's me. But we do need someone to talk to. We do need that listening ear. So just use your intuition on how you do that, who you share that with, because you definitely want someone there just to be, a listening ear and not someone to bash your husband, obviously. But I heard a dear friend of mine talk about, something that her husband did, and she was sharing this with me. And she said, I have every right to be angry. What he really did was it really hurt me. Like he really, really hurt me. So, and she was asking me, really, why should I let that go? Like it's a hurt. He hurt me. The action that he did hurt me profoundly. So why should I let that go? And maybe you've you've been that in your marriage as well. Maybe even listening to this podcast about a conscious marriage and owning our part, you're thinking, but there is some real hurt here. Why should I let that go? There's some real hurt here. And really want you to know I identify with that. I see you. I understand it because we've been there. We definitely have. There have been some deep, deep hurts with both of us and things that we have never talked about in public, but there have been some very, very deep things within us, some very, very deep hurts. And the reason why we need to let those go is I know the hurt is real, but it's causing some damage within you. And you're holding on to it, and you're holding on to it in your body. You're holding on to the hurt, you're holding on to the anger, you're holding on to the wounds. And when it does eventually turn into that resentment, that anger, and that bitterness, it's something that really stays with your body. So we need to release it for our own freedom. That's what I want you to understand. When I'm talking about living a conscious marriage, it's becoming aware of our part, not justifying theirs, but becoming aware of our part so that we can heal and feel freedom. Because there is freedom when we don't allow the circumstance or the person to actually control the heaven within us, the peace within us. We can create heaven or hell within us at any time. I want you to create heaven. I want you to create peace. And that is by releasing the hurt, releasing the resentment, releasing the bitterness so that you can have peace. So we don't want to stay there. We just really don't want to stay there. So let me paint a picture for you. Have you ever kept a secret tally list in your head of all the wrongdoings? And maybe you need to ponder on that for just a second, because I want you to really think about this. I want you to think of the first time when you were a little girl, maybe junior high, maybe high school. I want you to think about something that still kind of just stings a little bit. I can have one that comes to my mind. Yeah, this is the thing that I remember. And that's a tally list of all the wrongdoings. We keep that tally list within our marriage as well. And that tally list, it's in our head, and it creates justification for why we feel the way that we feel. Every time he forgot something important, we keep that tally list. And let me tell you something. The first 10 years of our marriage, my husband he was not home for our anniversary. And I kind of let that go by the wayside, believing that I'm a good wife, because he comes back from his golf tournament that he goes every year around our marriage. He comes back and tells me, all the guys just think you're such an amazing partner because you allow me to go off on our marriage. And I truly believed at that time that I was doing that because, it doesn't really bother me as long as we celebrate our anniversary. But what I was really doing is I was setting it up as a habit. I was setting it up for him, believing that I did not think that I was important enough for him to stay home for my anniversary. Where inside me, I felt guilt and shame if I didn't allow him to go out and be with his buddies over our anniversary. So I was putting myself last. I was teaching him that I really am not that important. And I was setting up for the future. So it continued for 10 years. And I finally said, you know what? One or two times, not on our anniversary is fine. But for 10 years, I haven't seen you on our anniversary. And I would like to spend time with you. And I set a boundary for that because I made myself important. But I kept that tally list for 10 years. There he goes again. See, I'm not important. But what I was really doing is I was not making myself important for him. All he was doing was he was following through with what I already believed and what I taught him. So we create that tally list, that scorekeeping. We scorekeep every time he dismisses our feelings. And that's what happened for 10 years. My feelings were dismissed. However, I loved hearing, "You're such a wonderful wife," year after year after year, until probably the third or fourth year. I'm like, enough is enough. Enough is enough. And every time he didn't notice how hard I was working when he was away, how hard that long hours I was working, that list just became proof. It became proof that he didn't love me. It became proof that he didn't care. It became proof that I was alone in my marriage. We justify, that list justifies our wounds. But here's what I want you to see. The tally list it's not about him. It's about the story you're carrying inside you. And that tally list of all the wrongdoings, it didn't begin with him. It began much, much earlier, as you know. It's the childhood wound beyond that beneath that anger. That's what that is. It's the childhood wound. It's that voice that says, he doesn't love you. He doesn't see you. You're not enough. It's that old echo of that room. That's what the wound, that's what that tally list is. And maybe you grew up not feeling seen. Maybe you had to work for your attention, work for affirmation, work for affection, work, do good things to experience love. And maybe you felt like no matter what you did, it just was never enough. Never enough. Those are my stories. Those are my personal stories. And when that wound goes unhealed, you carry it into every single relationship in your life and in your marriage. It is happening in your marriage. And suddenly your spouse becomes the stand-in guy for your parents, your caregivers, and your past. And you unconsciously try to get him to give to you what you didn't receive back then. Your partnership, your marriage is divinely orchestrated for you to heal those old wounds. Divinely orchestrated. You are here to heal each other's wounds. That's what this partnership is all about. Every relationship is here to teach you something. So if you walk into a relationship with a girlfriend and go, I wonder what this is supposed to teach me. Walk into a new career. I wonder what this is supposed to teach me about myself, about my old wounds that need to be healed, the old wounds of lack and limitation that really are not my truth. What is it that this career is going to teach me? What is it that my finances are here to teach me? Every time I swipe that debit card where I feel a little something in my stomach, like I'm going to be sick, that was a lot of money I just took out of my bank account. What is my money? What is my relationship with money here to teach me? All of it. Now, in your marriage, it comes down to he doesn't love me. Because at some point in our childhood, we learned to work for love. And maybe you've done that in your marriage as well. Maybe you don't feel like he loves you, so you work harder, you do more, you clean the house more, you make better meals. You do. And you just don't feel like it's working. You just don't feel like he loves you. And that anger, it feels so powerful. It feels so righteous anger, right? I have the right to be angry like this. It feels like protection, but really it's keeping you stuck. It's keeping you protected. It's keeping you in an invisible shield saying, back off. And so the love that we really want, we are not receiving because we have this invisible shield around us because we've got all this anger built up inside us. And we go into control mode. We just start to control our actions. We control his actions. We control who he is. We're constantly asking him to change things. And that is because the only thing that we can do at that point with all the anger, resentment, bitterness built up within us is go and try and control our environment, control our circumstances. That's futile, my friend, and it's exhausting. It doesn't work. Justified anger doesn't protect you. It actually imprisons you. So keeping that within you is causing a prison within you. You feel like you're justified for his actions, but actually what it does over time is it's just keeping you in a prison a prison of not being free. And remember, the goal with this is for you to experience freedom, heaven within yourself. But your nervous system doesn't really care if the anger is justified or not. It only knows that you're carrying stress, bracing for the next hurt, living in that survival mode. And I'm going to tell you what happens over time with that is your body starts to break down at the cellular level. And you won't see it in your 20s, you won't see it in your 30s, you won't see it in your 40s, it may show up in your 50s. And so there's internal damage that's being done when we're living out in survival mode the majority of our life. All of your hormones become out of whack. So there's a lot that happens in your nervous system when you're actually holding on to that anger. That tally list that we're keeping, it keeps our body on constant alert. It makes it impossible to feel safe. It makes it impossible to be open, and it makes it impossible for us to be connected. I know it because I've lived it. For years, I carried justified anger toward my husband, justified anger toward my mom, from friends, whatever it was. And I believed if they could only change, then I would be happy. But that didn't get me anywhere. What it got me in my marriage was just more of the same fights, deeper disconnection, a nervous system that was always braced for the next blow. And I nearly ended my 33-year marriage. Not at 33 years, at 15 years, because I was holding on so tightly just to being right. You hurt me. And I'm going to prove it to you over and over again how bad you hurt me. And what was I expecting him to do? An apology only goes so far. I had to heal what was within me. I had to heal what I was holding on to, what I was keeping in my body. And holding on to that, those justified resentments is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. That's what's happening within our body. So I want you to recognize where you're holding that tally list, where you're making that tally list, and maybe even start writing some things down. And when you stop demanding that your spouse heal your childhood wounds, which you're unaware of, and you take responsibility for doing the work yourself, something powerful happens. You begin to see him differently. You begin to see yourself differently, and that anger loses grip on you. Yes, that anger loses its grip. Because the real issue really was never the trash. It was never that he forgot to take the trash out, or the conversation that you never had. The real issue was the meaning you attached to it. The story you carried of I'm not important and I'm not seen. So I want to invite you into my Resentment Reset Live. It's a 3-day workshop. And we're really diving into this resentment, you guys. It is super, super powerful of what happens in your body when you're able to finally release it, to experience what you've been holding on for so long. And it'll probably surprise you how much you have been holding on. So we're going to take a look at resentment. We're going to take a look at many different aspects of how you're carrying that in your body, how to release it, and how to live more in a state of that freedom. So the link is in the show notes. So take a look, save your seat, share this with your friends. I'm telling you, women are going through this. We all have built up resentment. Join me on this force to help men and women live a more conscious marriage so we can take ownership of our side of the street, not saying that their actions are right. So we can heal ourselves and live in that state of freedom and become aware moving forward what we're creating from that subconscious belief. And when you're creating from those subconscious beliefs of I am enough, I am worthy, I am important, it changes everything. So join me on this mission to help people live more consciously. See you in the workshop, 3 days, super powerful. Excited to be with you. I love you, and I'll see you next week. Hey, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Limitless Podcast. If you loved it, and I know you did, make sure to like and subscribe and share it with others. Help us get the message out. See you next week.